Hi. Hello, hello, hello. I am so excited. We are going to have a fertility hot seat here today. So for all the newbies, this is how it works. You request to join me live, and at random, I'm going to pick one of you to join me live, and I'm going to give you a free 15-minute fertility consult based on my 2 decades of clinical experience. You might notice that the background's a little different than normal. I'm actually in my New York City clinic right now as we speak. I had to reschedule patients because we had a snowstorm on Tuesday, so I'm going to do my hot seat, and then I'm going to hop into practice, and I'm booked, so please don't reach out if you want an appointment because there are no spots available. So anyway, I'm excited. People who have already started requesting to join me live. So just a reminder, you hit the plus button down at the bottom of your screen, and that will request to join me live. And then at random, in about a minute or two, I'm going to pick one of you to come live with me and a free 15-minute consult. Please keep in mind, this is not medical advice. I have to say that because it's the right thing to do. I will not be answering questions. So if anybody posts questions in here, I will not answer them. This is specifically a fertility hot seat. I have a live Q&A that's going to happen in about 2 weeks. And we're going to do it all on my new supplement line, the Rejuva fertility supplements. If you guys have not checked out the new supplement line, they are fucking amazing. Excuse my F-bomb. Go to getrejuva.com, GETREJOOVA. I will put it here actually. And these the most common questions we're getting right now on Rejuva is, do you ship internationally? Not yet. Unfortunately, there are a lot of regulations around herbs and organ meats, both of which are in our formulations and supplements from country to country. So we're working with someone who's going to help us get to market that we can then ship internationally. And the second question we're seeing a lot of is, does this replace a prenatal? No. The answer is no, you still will need your prenatal. I'm kind of seeing it as it's replacing all of your antioxidants, and it's replacing a lot of stuff like your CoQ10 and your vitamin D and your NAC. So, but have a look at the supplements and look at the ingredients, and you can do it yourself too and just see, oh, this has CoQ10, this has vitamin D, this has NAC, this has liver. Okay, so I don't need any of those supplements anymore. I just need this one bottle. Pretty exciting. But that's going to be in 2 weeks. I'm going to talk about Rejuva. I'm also going to do, it's on my to-do list just so you guys know, a price point comparison, because the Get Rejuva supplements are not cheap. They're $90 a bottle for a 1-month supply. But when you add up all the things that you're not buying anymore, it's actually a savings. And so I want to break that all down for you guys though. And I have to update the site and my bundles and all these things. But so anyway, this is a fertility hot seat. There's now 7 people who have requested to join me live. So one last thing, as I was starting to say, this is not medical advice. This is advice based on my 2 decades, 20 years of clinical experience. Keep in mind, over those 20 years, I was averaging 60 patients a week for 15 years in my clinic. And then about 5 years ago, I moved more online, and I was kind of doing a hybrid of some online and some clinic. And then now I'm more online than in the clinic. I'm only in my clinics now once a month, and I kind of just hop around, and I don't take any new patients. Just so you know, my associates take the new patients. I oversee all cases, but I'm not taking on new patients. In the clinic, that is. I only see people through my 6-month intensive FFP program. It's just how my life has evolved, and also now I have 5 coaches that I manage all these cases, so you have to keep that in mind. It's just, you know, in order for me to be the best Amy for all of you, this is what I have to do. And so these hot seats are fun because I know tons of practitioners like to join in and they learn, and then I know all of you learn. And so let's get to it, because I do have a busy day of clinic clients, and I'm going to take a sip of I know you guys are going to be like, you're drinking out of a can, but I just didn't have a second to grab a glass. And sometimes it's okay to drink out of a can, right? We're human. We're not robots. I'm very much about the 80-20 rule in everything we do and apply here, right? Perfection does not equal pregnancy. And I think that's something that we all really need to own and accept. So let me get in here and just see. So, Who do I want to go live with? Let's see. Oh my God, there's so many of you. This is so hard. Okay, I'm just gonna at random hit one. And if it doesn't work, you have to be on your phone too, guys, just so you know to go live. If it doesn't work with Gabriella, then I'll pick somebody else. Okay. It worked. Hi.
Hi.
How are you?
I'm fine. How are you?
I am doing okay, thank you. It's nice to meet you.
It's nice to meet you too. I feel like I'm in your world right now because I'm
Uh,
doing your diet and I'm following all your stuff, listening to all your podcasts, so I feel like I already know you.
well, thank you. Thank you. I know there's a lot of me out there. It's like sometimes I Google, like people were asking, I was in my private community earlier and someone was asking about like gallstones and I'm like, I know I wrote a blog about gallstones like forever ago. I just like Googled my name and gallstones and it was like up it came. Like, here you go, 2012. But thank you. Thank you for trusting me. I know this journey is so freaking hard. And so I appreciate that. And then just to be clear, right, you know, this is not medical advice. I'm going to give you some, okay.
Correct.
Just so we're safe and following the regulations. So go ahead, tell me what's going on and let me see how I can help.
Okay. So I had a miscarriage, unfortunately, in November. I discovered it at the 8-week mark, but it happened in the 6-week time period. My husband and I have been trying for maybe like 4 months.
Okay.
Maybe the first month was like kind of not serious, and then we got a little bit more serious. And
okay.
So yeah, it was like on our 3rd or 4th month. And I am younger, I'm 30, but it was one of those things that, you know, obviously has been really hard. I also just had therapy today, so I feel like I'm in this like emotional, state of it all. But I have had like health issues kind of intermittently, and like the reason I started with the egg quality diet is like I feel like I have no idea, you know, what state my body was in during pregnancy, like if that could have affected the miscarriage at all. But I have struggled with like chronic diarrhea for years, kind of thing, like always kind of just ignored it and was like, that's just who I am. But, you know, have recently been like, I think right before I got the positive pregnancy test, I had cut out gluten and dairy to see like maybe that has something to do with this. I also have eczema. Like I have lots of like outbreaks of eczema, probably like, you know, every couple weeks. And it definitely feels like it's a stress thing for me too. But I don't know if it's like related to what I'm eating or not. Anyway, so I had the miscarriage. Unfortunately, the pills didn't work for me. I had to have a DNC. And then I had a 6 weeks after the miscarriage until I got my period.
Yeah.
And my first period was pretty painful. And I passed like a, you know, quarter size clot of like tissue. Like it was, you know, retained. And I've had one cycle since then. I'm finishing it actually. My partner and I tried last cycle. We didn't get pregnant. But I guess I'm just wondering if, the other part of this all is that I think I have PCOS. It is not, I don't present in the way that is like, you know, I don't have a lot of the typical things, including on my blood work. But I have been struggling to get a diagnosis because of that. I think the flip, you know, that what I do show is that I have facial hair growth, and that has been like the last 3 years of these, like I've noticed it, you know,
how much
stubborn hairs, like on my chin, on both sides of my chin, and it's, you know,
of course,
probably like 20 hairs. You know, it's not like just a couple. It's a decent, and they grow quickly, like every couple.
And is your testosterone high? Has that been checked?
No, it's not. But on an ultrasound,
on ultrasound they
it's
see
normal. On ultrasound, they see the cyst, but they won't give me the diagnosis.
But that's interesting because you have 2 of the Rotterdam criteria right there. That's interesting.
I don't know if it's because I live in Spain. That's another thing. It could be.
Don't mean to laugh. Although Spain is pretty cutting edge right now. They're doing lots of cool stuff at like in Madrid.
I don't know if it's just the doctors that I'm seeing. Like it could be that I saw 2 older men gynecologists that like I need to maybe find. I'm kind of in that phase of like, I wanted to ask you, like, do you think I should be pushing to get a diagnosis if like my blood work all shows up normal? And
you can manage a lot of, like, I also think like regardless of the diagnosis, right? If it's like PCOS or, you know, this wouldn't be you too. Your AMH probably is higher, but you're also 30.
I did just get
Does
my AMH tested,
okay.
and I got it back today, actually. It's a 6.35.
Yeah. So typically we look for AMH above a 10 is usually very indicative of
Okay.
PCOS. And then the FSH to LH ratio, where
Yeah.
it's a 2-to-1 or a 3-to-1 ratio, that's also indicative. Obviously the facial hair, obviously the string of pearls on the ultrasound, and then we're looking at like testosterone and SHGB and DHEAS
Right.
all being high. But you don't have to have all of those. But also, like, to the point of, do we need a diagnosis? Only if you want to take metformin is what I would say, because otherwise you could do it with myo-inositol, you could do it with
Right.
diet, lifestyle shifts, right? So all my PCOS girls were still kind of doing the same thing, right?
Okay. Yeah.
I think where it matters is your predisposition towards like pre-diabetes or gestational diabetes, things of that nature, where it might have a bigger role. But again, unless you were to go and treat it with a Western medicine,
Mm-hmm.
that's the only reason it truly matters.
Yeah, that's kind of what I've been thinking too. I think it's been frustrating to not have anyone like take me seriously, and that
That's
is something I'm also dealing with a little bit of like, how persistent are you? Like, how many times are you like, the other thing with the miscarriages here in Spain is my doctor, an older man who's very kind and sweet, but is like, we won't, consider an issue until you've had 3 back to back. And I'm
that's
like,
that's the standard. It's so
yeah,
fucking frustrating. It's beyond upsetting. But you could still take the bulls by the horn, if you will, the bull by the horns, if you will, or take back the reins. And I do have a panel. It's, if you go to amyrock.com/miscarriage, there's the miscarriage panel there of all the testing, which you could get done. Did you test the tissue when you did the DNC or no?
no, because I didn't really even realize that was an option. Like, I think unfortunately, like, it was one of those things I hadn't done a lot of reading or like research into miscarriage before we had one. And then when it all was happening, it was so overwhelming. And, I just didn't even know that that was a thing you could
Yeah.
do, unfortunately, until after. So, yeah.
So, I mean, that's it too, of like, to be statistical for a second, it's like 20% of pregnancies end in miscarriage, and that's just normal. It
Yeah.
is where I start to flag it, and I think you know this because you've been following me, is like back-to-back miscarriages without a live birth in between. We should be looking deeper. Some of your, you have the egg quality diet, so those red flag symptoms speak to me. Like, okay,
Yeah.
the diarrhea, the eczema, that tells me there's some malabsorption issues. So I would do the egg quality diet, what you're doing, and like, improve nutrient absorption. You should see your skin shift. It was the game changer for my skin. I had eczema my whole life until my late 20s, early 30s, when I started changing my diet more aggressively, or just finding my trigger
Yeah.
foods.
Yeah.
And stress will still impact me at times, but not nearly like it used to. And like, if I am stressed, I just double up on my cod liver oil, and
Mm.
typically, and my eczema goes right away. Um, and that's obviously my case, but like
Yeah.
I feel like I see that trending, for most people. So I would think about that. And also, like, even if it is PCOS, like, one of the other big concerns with PCOS is either anovulation, like you're not ovulating at all, or you're having these like 100-day cycles where
Right.
you're only getting a few attempts a year to conceive. And so since you're ovulating, it sounds like fairly regularly,
I think
that's another
so.
reason that, like, it is what it
Yeah.
is. You know what I mean? Right now, that's how I would look at it. But I would probably do the myo, to dechiral to
Inositol.
40-to-1
Yeah.
inositol, because it can't hurt. And then I would also really focus, and the quality diet lays that out, on the protein, and making sure
Yeah.
you're getting at like 30 grams of protein within, I say, like the first few hours of waking, to really start the day off strong, to help manage the insulin, because that's really where the side effects kick in, I think, with potential PCOS. And then as far as trying again, I mean, obviously you did try this time. I think you, in my opinion, I think you come from this space of, we have no reason to believe that there's anything major wrong. You can kind of check your boxes.
Yeah.
You could go and get the additional blood test. I'm sure it'd probably be an out of cost expense. One thing, a patient of mine who is a physician told me, like, a workaround is to, you could ask for, I don't know how the system works there, but you could ask for a referral to a hematologist saying that there's a
Mm.
history of blood clots or strokes in your family. And you bring up to the hematologist that you've had a miscarriage and there's this history in your family and you're just a little concerned. And most hematologists just like don't even think about fertility.
Yeah.
Well, they're really just kind of they're just trying to support you. So that is one way to get the miscarriage panel done. It works for girls in the US here as well.
Okay, that's
Um,
good to know.
or the baby aspirin. I mean, you're young. I don't typically recommend it just at any point, but you can clear this with your doctor too, of like taking a baby aspirin in the luteal phase. If there is a low-lying clotting factor disorder, it could support treating it and prevent another loss if that were the case. Um, but I think too, it's like you're also young enough that the inflammation probably hasn't impacted egg quality yet, to be quite
Mm.
honest. You know, that like obviously we see these symptoms, the diarrhea, the eczema, that your body still kind of can manage and get away with If you were 10 years older, I think it'd be more like, I would say, okay, let's do the egg quality diet, let's wait 2 to 3 months, then try again. But I think for you too, it's like do all the things, like make sure you're taking the fish oil, get your vitamin D levels checked, like really pay attention to that diarrhea and that eczema. Those are your
Yeah.
two guys. Take the myo-inositol, make sure you're on enough methylfolate, no folic acid, you know, like all those kind of basics. And then hopefully you get pregnant again in the next few months and all goes well, right? If
Yeah,
not,
that's
then we dig deeper. If we get
yeah,
pregnant,
that's
we
kind of
miscarry again. I mean, it does, it sucks, but like then and I think you're already making changes, so you at least can feel good. Like I'm doing something different
that's
than what I
exactly
did
what it's
last
been.
time. Yeah.
Like I feel so empowered by like following your diet, and I have noticed huge changes in my digestion. Like I have not
Amazing.
had diarrhea since
Amazing.
changing to the egg quality diet. My eczema is still flaring, and I wonder if it's stress. And I have had some day, like I'll have organic wine here in
Yeah.
Spain, and I'm like maybe that's okay, but then I've noticed like after that I have a flare, and I'm wondering if it's like a histamine
Yeah.
thing, or
It could
it's
be.
it could be.
And
So I've noticed
watch
huge
the
changes though.
ferments too. If you feel like there's a histamine thing, watch the ferments that I recommend on the egg
Okay.
quality diet too. I find that if I pull those from patients that are histamine,
Like
they are less histamine.
sauerkraut, you think like that could cause it? Okay.
Try it. Try like a week without sauerkraut and see if the
Yeah.
eczema gets better. You
I love the
know,
sauerkraut. I loved
I
making
know
my
it's
own. That
so
was so
good.
fun.
It's so good, but even for me, like if I have kombucha on a regular basis, I
Yeah.
start to get like I'll get sneezy, I can get like histamine. So but you'll see too, like over time as the gut heals, then you can have those exposures and you shouldn't have a flare. But still right now, and also like your hormones are still coming back in. Like I feel like
Yeah.
this is the second cycle since, but yeah, it could be lots of little shifts. But yeah, I would just kind of really tune in, use the food diary, use all the additional resources that come with the book on the website, and really tune into like, okay, when it flares and see if that's basically my job. That's what I do. And I just look back the day before and try to connect the dots and be like, okay, you had this, then you got a little flare here. And I try to pinpoint the foods, if you will.
Yeah. I will note also I had a low vitamin D in the summer, like last May when I got my vitamin D check. So I have been kind of supplementing.
Right.
And I have had recently, like this last week, blood work done again just to kind of check in on how things are going. Kind of like what you said, I just like went to a different doctor and was like, I would like, this happened, and they ordered some blood work. I just haven't gotten it back yet. But in terms of like blood, like vitamin D levels, what would you say is ideal for trying to conceive? Like what mine were
Between
at 24 when
Yeah,
when
so
I
and that was
tested.
nanograms per
Yeah.
milliliter. That's like the US
Yes.
standard. So yeah, that's low. And that the research shows under 30 impacts implantation rates. Like it's definitely could be a cause for miscarriage too, which sucks, but is something, not that we're in a blame state, but more like detectives. We want it between a 50 and a 70. That's my
Okay.
goal.
Okay.
And yeah, and I'm happy with that. But like even for you, if we just get above a 30, which you probably already are, and even if it's, I know it's not summer right now, but like trying to get light on your eyes every morning if you can, even through a window. I mean, but ideally you're getting outside and letting that light hit you. And then I would get your thyroid checked too, your TSH, free T3 and free T4, just to make sure everything's like where it needs to be. And then for you too, when you're pregnant again, I would push for early monitoring. So like I had a miscarriage, I'm not waiting till 8 weeks. I want to come in like at the positive. I want blood work. And I would then push for your pregnancy hormone, which is the beta HCG, progesterone. So funny, all these explosions. I don't know what's going on here. Progesterone and then thyroid as well. Like I would get those three: TSH, beta HCG, and progesterone all
Okay.
checked, and like check it the first time, check it a week
Okay.
later. And I think it'll just be empowering to you of
Yeah.
like, okay, I'm on top of this, and we're like navigating and looking for anything.
I know I've been having that feeling of like, hopefully the next time I'm like, will I want more help, or will I want to be like, no, I don't want to look at anything until like later. But I think it is true, like feeling like you have information is empowering. And at least that's how I felt in this process right now.
Good. And that's it too, of like, I think it's Deepak Chopra who says like something, the idea of being in control is like a total fallacy. Like the steps to enlightenment mean that we surrender all control, but like, and these little steps though do make us feel a little more in control. Like, okay, I kind of know what my body's doing. But the truth is too, your progesterone could be low and you could still carry that pregnancy to term. Your TSH could jump and you could still carry that pregnancy to term. So, but it's just this thing of like, okay, I'm making, I'm getting this information and I can get the support I need when and where I need it, and advocating for yourself, I think always feels good.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much. I
You're
really
welcome so
appreciate it.
much. Of course, I thank you so much for being so brave and coming on. So thank you.
Thank you.
And good luck. And yeah, feel free to DM us when you get your next positive or have any other questions, okay? You're
Thanks so
welcome.
much, Amy.
Thank you, everybody. Goodbye.